Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. Sex ed teachers of Reddit, what is the most awkward / cringe-worthy question you've had to answer in your class? Not a sex ed teacher, but a 7th grade classroom teacher. I had one boy ask me, "Mr. XXXX, you know right?" as he cupped his hands in front of his chest. I nodded. "I'm sorry, I know this is a bad word," he said, "but I don't know any other way to say it. Are full of edit. Thank you for the awards. I don't deserve them. My ill-informed student does." That shit was hysterical. Why is this the funniest one on here? My favorite part is that he cupped his hands in front of his chest to help explain to the teacher what are. You know right? No, what are those? I'm a teacher in year 6, 10 plus 11-year-olds in the UK. It's the first year that children really learn and talk about sex in school. We had arrived at the actual sexual intercourse lesson, where we focus on the science of conception. One boy out his hand up and said that there were, of course, sounding worldly wise ways of having sex without getting pregnant. I nodded approvingly as I thought we were going to start talking about contraception. "Yes," he says, "you can stick your between a woman's breasts and then on her chest." I suppose he isn't wrong. Hard to get pregnant like that. Took me by surprise though. Bruh, we started in year 3. Always changing, always growing or something like that. By year 6 we were made to watch a lady give birth and some poor lad fainted. Looking back, that primary school was all around though, so not surprised. No need to mention the incident. Yeah, I've had a few fainters. To be fair, the video is pretty hardcore. It's probably the same one still, the BBC one. They showed BBCs to 10 to 11-year-olds during our sex education in the early 90s, which amounted to 1 hour of dividing the boys and girls of each grade, taking them into their respective classrooms, and going over very broad topics. We were allowed to anonymously ask additional questions we had by writing them on a flashcard and passing them to the front. I asked what would happen if a boy peed inside a girl. I watched as my flashcard was silently read by the teacher, then unceremoniously thrown away without being answered. To this day, I still don't know. I teach 11 to 13-year-olds, all subjects. I was explaining the functions of spontaneous erection to a group of 40 12-year-old boys. As you develop, and even into your adulthood, you will sometimes develop an erection at times that seem inappropriate. Just know that it's normal, and while it can be embarrassing, it does not necessarily mean that you are sexually attracted to anything or anyone at that time. Boy in the front row with his hand up. I have an erection right now. Is that normal? Edit. Thanks for my first gold anonymous redditor. I'm casual as all hell, so I have no idea what any of it means, but I appreciate the gesture. Either he was ignorantly telling the truth or the funniest kid out of a group of 40. He was a really simple and sweet kid. I honestly think he had an erection and just spoke about the first thing that came up. Sorry about the pun. We had a girl in our class ask our science teacher when did she lose her virginity. She answered, "When I first had sex." Excellent answer. Ha. A nun taught us sex ed. One of the lads asks her if when you stick it in, do you just hold it there, or do you wiggle it, or what? She turned red and informed him it was an inappropriate question. So what's the real answer? Asking for a friend. Stick it in and maintain eye contact for as long as possible. After about 3 minutes of eye contact you like that. Not a teacher, but we had noticards and wrote questions anonymously. One asked if both partners have long pubes, will they get tangled? How do you untangle them? And honestly, I never thought of that. The sound of opening Velcro. My daughter is a high school health teacher. When I told her there's a Reddit question directed at her, she gave me these. 1. Why do I feel happy in my pants when I see a girl? 2. Is it true that a guy's balls will explode if he doesn't? Most common question. Can you get pregnant from anal sex? Once asked the question to a group of year 9 students. What do you do if you want to have sex and you can't find a condom? Student 1, male. Surely you can find something in your house. Maybe cling film. Student 2, female. Yeah. Or maybe tinfoil. Tinfoil. Like a little suit of armor. A kid in my class asked what is the stuff that girls orgasm out if males is them. Teacher said that girls don't ejaculate. The kid responded, no they do, I've seen it on the internet. Yes, the age of the internet is keeping sex ed honest. When I did sex ed in school back in the late 90s, the most awkward question I remember someone asking was, why do condoms come in different flavors? I remember grape flavored condoms coming up, in an arty podcast or drunk tank quickly became my friend gorillas in joke. For example, we'd remark at lunch we started talking about Star Trek, then something about black holes, and then grape flavored condoms, and ended on football. Just throw it in randomly and not acknowledge it, like the gorilla. I'm not a teacher, but in 8th grade we finally had a health class at my private Christian junior high. The teacher was determined to do a correct and thorough job despite the obvious constraints put on her by the schools, and the parents paying the tuition, of course, moral/ideology. She got to the last day, so far so good. We learned all the proper names for stuff, how it works, though it was an abstinence only curriculum of course, so no methods of birth control were officially discussed, but she answered questions, and we got correct info about what condoms do and do not offer in terms of protection and general confirmation that there are also other forms of birth control. Anyhow, here's where it went sideways. Last day, she says we can anonymously submit written questions to a box and she will answer them all truthfully. We work through the box until she gets to one that makes her turn red. She's not embarrassed, but she sees the danger. She tells us she's going to answer this question after the bell rings. Anyone who wants to know what the question is can stay, and she'll read the question and answer it. Honestly, I was kind of embarrassed at the whole subject. I left when the bell rang, but it didn't matter. The whole school knew about it 20 seconds after she answered the question, because the guys literally burst out of the room shouting the answer. The question, is it okay to masturbate? She said it was natural. She was fired that day. TLDR, health teacher at a religious school, says masturbation is natural, gets fired immediately. Edit, I forgot to mention, respect level went to 100% to that teacher when she did that. And that school. I'm not a teacher. Back in grade school, one of my classmates asked the teacher during the sex education lessons about why his dad put fingers in his butthole, then made him cry, but still loves him. The student disappeared the next day. I only realized it years later. Wait, so the dad put the fingers in his own butthole? The kid was molested by his father. I'm sorry, but what the foo? Not a teacher, but this happened years ago in my old elementary school, and I heard about it. Teacher, remember girls, it is always okay to say no to sex girl. Can I even say no to my daddy? He went to jail. Edit, formatting. In my 8th grade health class, the female teacher, about 50 and very obese, was asked what does but sex feel like. She described it as taking a very large, slightly uncomfortable dump. So now every time I have a dump that feel like that, I just think of butt sex. One of my friends said every time he takes a huge poo he looks at it, thinks about how it felt coming out, and he thinks to himself that's how much I could take if I was gay. I asked the teacher how the sperm got into a woman and if she had to drink it from a cup to get pregnant. One of my favorite moments from my high school days. We had health as part of our PE class, and they always got the PE teachers to teach it. And of course one week of it was sex edition. We had this dumb football coach who basically read us the textbook for a week, rather than actually deal with the subject. Not really because of any squeamishness, but mostly because it wasn't related to football, and that's all he cared about. I didn't know it was possible to make sex boring until I sat through that week of school. All of us were dozing off or just daydreaming, but the last day, someone raised their hand and said, "Hey coach, how do you have sex? What's the process?" Obviously, they were messing with the guy. The coach said, okay, so you got a donut and a banana," and goes on to tell us about how that would work. It was so bizarre. Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in the missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it. Okay, promise? Okay, now everybody take some rubbers. At your age, you're going to have a lot of urges. You're going to want to take off your clothes and touch each other. But if you do touch each other, you will get chlamydia and die. So I teach high school biology and there is a sex ed unit. The public school district I teach in is super conservative, so I did my lesson. No one asked questions. One boy came up to me and said he was uncut and he had some white stuff that smelled and what could he do to get rid of it. So I told him what it was, smegma, and he needed to ask his parents that procedure. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments under the video, write something on this topic, and also do not forget to watch our other videos. Bye.